Boss have designed a fucking Skinner box. This, as a concept, needs to be slain by the community before it has a chance to grow wings and breathe fire. Allegedly, speculation, presented for entertainment purposes only, and all the other words I need to say to deflect any defamation cases Boss might try to throw my way over this one. This is all my opinion based off my analysis and the data I currently have access to. I could be wrong about all of this, but I don't think I am. This is Boss's latest pedal, Plugout FX. You've probably heard a lot of controversy surrounding it. It follows the same concept as the Digitech iStomp, TC Electronic Plethora, and the Line 6 HX1, a digital pedal that can load one of a library of effects from a manufacturer's lineup at any given time. Boss say this is aimed particularly at fans of Boss pedals who want access to rarer or discontinued effects like the Tiwa or Slow Gear, but don't want to spend vintage money on the real rare units. These type of one-at-a-time digi-pedals, in my opinion, have fairly limited application, and with more fully featured digital modelling options available that can build entire signal chains rather than limit you to single esoteric effects, you'd have to be a really dedicated Boss fan to opt for this. Controversially, Boss announced that the Plugout would feature additional paid content. Starting in January 26, they will be launching more pedal models than the 16 currently available. But these are not free updates. If you want the new Metal Zone model for your Plugout, that'll cost you extra. And I know this is low-hanging fruit, but it also looks pretty unfinished. When I first saw this hit my feed on announcement day, I genuinely thought this was a Chibson post, or some amateur fan-made Photoshop of a pedal concept. But nope, Boss genuinely designed a pedal that looks like a Tesco value tin of baked beans. While many of my peers have already made videos about this, and they've addressed a lot of the core points that have stirred controversy within the guitar playing community, I haven't yet seen anyone discussing what I consider to be the most dangerous and the most insidious part of Boss's Plugout FX announcement. At this stage, we're all very aware that this is a pedal with microtransactions. It's horse armour for your tone. It's a bawhead away from a subscription service or sounds, and the Boss Battle Pass concept means that you own none of it. You're paying for temporary access to pedal models that could be changed or removed at any time. And while this is legitimately concerning for all of the reasons that everyone else has stated, there's still a part of this that no one seems to have picked up on. And I'm going to ask you to stay with me here, because at first this is going to feel like a really minor nitpicky complaint, but when you realise how allegedly purposely designed this is, it becomes the most evil and shocking part of all. The Plugout FX pedal is designed to store 16 effects at any given time, and 16 effects models have been developed at present. When you purchase this $250 pedal, you are also purchasing access to all 16 of these models. However, the pedal ships with only 8 of these effects pre-installed, half of what you paid for.
PX1 is loaded with 8 iconic effects. With up to 16 effect slots available inside the unit, there are plenty of options to keep you inspired.
In order to access the other 8 sounds, you need to download the Effects Loader app to your mobile device. Connect the device to your pedal via Bluetooth, and then manually, one by one, go to each of the pedal models and press the download button. Sound effect, animation, new sound available on your pedal. Repeat 8 times.
Pairing the pedal with our Boss Effect Loader app grants access to a further 8 iconic Boss effects that can be directly installed into the PX1.
Now this is strange. Why not just ship with all 16 models preloaded? Why force the users into the inconvenience of downloading an app on day one and repeatedly pressing a button 8 times for a pleasant little reward? Well, you see, the app isn't just for the 16 models currently available with the purchase of the device. Starting from January 2026, the app will also serve as a sales page for additional effects models that can be purchased for a small fee. Around $10 per model is what I've heard from a reliable source in contact with Boss.
We are happy to announce that more effects will be added via Model Pass from January 2026. If you like what you hear, they can be purchased and added directly to the PX1 to one of the available slots inside the unit.
It seems very clear to me that at some point in development, a discussion in a meeting went something along the lines of, Well, if we ship with all 16 slots filled, customers might not realise they're able to purchase additional models later on. If we don't push them towards the app on day one, how can we encourage them into downloading different options? And how will we be able to notify them when new purchasable models become available? Let's say you purchase this pedal 6 months or a year down the line. By that time, there will be a number of extra models available to purchase in the app, alongside all of the ones that you've already paid for with your purchase. Sticking 8 of these models that you've already paid for on the app instead of in the pedal is a very purposeful decision. Boss are forcing you into an app where they are conditioning you to press a button over and over again for a little reward each time, all the while jangling the keys in the hope that you'll make other purchases while you're there. This is not an app. Boss have designed a fucking Skinner box. If you're not already familiar with a Skinner box, it's a term that relates to a type of scientific experiment that explores behavioural conditioning in both individuals and societies. The classic example is that you take a lab rat or a pigeon, a reasonably intelligent animal capable of problem solving that lives a social lifestyle, and you place it in a box, isolated from all positive stimuli: food, play, social interaction. The only other thing in this box is a button that, when pressed, does something nice, dispenses food, or sends a signal to an electrode connected to the rat's brain that stimulates pleasure. The important thing about a Skinner box is that pressing the button is entirely optional. The rat doesn't have to engage with the button if it doesn't want to. The rat can just choose not to press the button, but denied any other stimulus, it'll eventually press the button out of curiosity or boredom or even just by accident. And then when they do, they get a little reward, which will encourage them to press the button again and again and again. This is called conditioned behaviour. Then you can change what the button does just to fuck with the rat. Maybe now you have to press the button twice to get the same reward. Or maybe there is a second button or another action that needs to be performed. Or maybe you just stop the button dispensing food completely and watch as the rat has a mental breakdown as its one pleasure in life has been ripped from it. Rats that were conditioned to press the button can have all of their food, play and social stimuli added back to the box, and even though they have an abundance of other healthy options now, they'll continue pressing the button. That conditioning has become addiction. And it's not just individual conditioning. Skinner boxes have been used to condition entire societies of animals, even generational conditioning. They can condition individuals to behave a certain way, introduce new unconditioned animals to the enclosure. The conditioned animals will then condition the new animals, which has led to some experiments where the button no longer does anything. And all of the animals that originally interacted with it when it was working have been removed. But the society continues on with the ritual of pressing the button, despite never having directly experienced the rewards for themselves. And if you think this only applies to rats and pigeons, they've done this with humans too, and it works. Just imagine for a second that you had some kind of routine appointment somewhere. And when you got there, the person that you had come to meet was still in a meeting, and you were asked to wait in a waiting room until they became available. There is no one and nothing else in this waiting room. No windows, no art on the walls, just a blank grey room with the door locked behind you. Nothing except for a coloured button on the far wall with a handwritten sign taped above it that says, "Do not touch." Be honest with yourself. How long would you have to be left in that room before you pressed the button? And if it did something interesting, would you press it again? The thing about Skinner boxes, or operant conditioning chambers if you want the dry scientific terminology, is that while these studies have informed some positive results that have helped humanity, the vast majority of times you see these principles implemented, it's done to weaponize addiction and exploit the vulnerable, destroying lives in order for a large company to financially profit. There's a good reason why behavioural psychologist B.F. Skinner used to write to other scientists begging them not to call the apparatus a Skinner box in their papers. He did not like his name being so closely associated with a mechanism that could cause such deep suffering. These and similar studies on addiction and behavioural conditioning are used by casinos, mobile and live service video games, and dating apps to prey on isolated, lonely, vulnerable people and condition them with reward cycles to continue giving their money away. And while I don't believe Boss are as far down that rabbit hole as these other industries are, where they are specifically employing behavioural scientists to develop mechanisms to most efficiently monetize people's addiction, if you think a large industry-leading Japanese tech company isn't very well aware of the methods of the gaming and gambling industries, how much money is to be made in employing those methods, and that they aren't at least actively considering how they can implement them in their own industry, then I think you are incredibly naive. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, so what, Colin? Even if they are doing this, it won't work on me. I'm a savvy consumer who can't be manipulated in this way. Yeah, we all fucking think that, dickhead. That's how they get you. And what these Skinner box experiments have shown time and again is that it's not so much about the individual, but their environment that makes them more or less susceptible to exploitation. And face it, we're all musicians, sitting alone at home, compulsively buying gear and watching other lonely musicians on YouTube to feel a sense of community and gratification that is severely lacking in our real lives. I know a lot of musicians who need the newest thing, who need to have every variant of a particular product, and who need to complete a collection. These are the people at risk of being exploited by something like this. I myself live alone in a small apartment, starve for social interaction, and I don't live a particularly healthy lifestyle, and I lie awake at night in existential panic. I am very much the rat in the box here, and I don't appreciate Boss putting a fucking button in front of me, whether exploitation was their intention or not. Oh, Colin, you're overreacting! Look, Boss aren't stupid. If I've been considering all of this, then absolutely so have they. None of this is accidental. The only questions that remain are, just how much are Boss willing to push this, and what protections have they put in place to prevent the vulnerable being exploited? I've checked the app, and at present it does not push notifications to your device, which is a really good sign, but that could well change when they update the app to host paid content in January. Bro, it's not that deep. I'm sorry, but it's precisely that deep. This behaviour is well documented in other industries, and it is evil and destroys lives. I'm not saying that Boss are currently on the same level as a casino or Candy Crush, but they are testing the fences and looking for weaknesses. They are finding out how far they can push this and what the backlash is going to be. Remember, none of these Skinner box mechanics implemented by other industries are designed for your benefit, but instead are designed to advantage the ghouls and dragons profiting off of your exploitation. And with this release, Boss are teetering on the edge of becoming a dragon themselves. And this, as a concept, needs to be slain by the community before it has a chance to grow wings and breathe fire. The whole idea of deliberately withholding half of the product until the consumer can demonstrate they can press a button 8 times, conditioning them in a Skinner box while being tempted with other options that cost more, all from an app that could, at any time, start pushing notifications to your device for model passes that you don't own but are simply allowed access to for as long as Boss grants that privilege. That, in my estimation, is the insidious nature of the Plugout FX pedal, and it runs the risk of deliberately and intentionally exploiting the vulnerable so that Boss can profit. This goes beyond microtransactions and subscription models. It goes beyond the amateurish aesthetic. I believe, but cannot prove, there is evil intent behind what many will write off as innocent functionality from a company they consider to be ethical. Far too many people I've heard discussing this have an incredibly misplaced trust in corporate humanity. I also want to believe that Boss are good people, and the people that I have met and do business dealings with, who I'll probably be face to face with in a room really soon, are good people. But they aren't the ones at the top making these kind of product development decisions. Boss are pushing at the boundaries, and they are setting a precedent. They and others will follow with even more insidious mechanisms in the future unless we push back hard against this now. But time and money will do the talking on this. Just like the Oblivion horse armor which catalyzed microtransactions in gaming and have gone on to have terrible consequences and infest every game experience to this day. Perhaps Boss did genuinely intend this to be an innocent, fun feature, but to me, it looks a lot more like sticking a foot in the door with a known tactic and seeing how far they can get. Maybe, hopefully I'm wrong, and this controversial product isn't as insidious as I fear. But one thing I know for certain, now that the genie is out of the bottle, the next product definitely will be. Anyway, all you rats in a cage, where did I go wrong? Am I too cynical? Do I just need to get laid and stop complaining about things all the time? Let me know about it in the comments. That's all for now. Keep it loud and stay safe.